there was the end. Egypt will go to, or Israel will go to Second Egypt and will be there in bondage for 400 years before they wake up. And everybody thinks back in the day was the 400 years, but it wasn't. It was only 300 and something years, and that was First Egypt. So they will be brought by ship to Second Egypt and kept in bondage there for 400 years under a curse. So they were brought here by ship and put into bondage here for 400 years. So, oh my. So let's go all the way back to the start of that history. See, Egypt, no, Israel is Jacob. Jacob was born Jacob, and then God changes his name to Israel. And then the land is called Israel after him. Okay? So, and the people are called Israel after him, Israelites. But they're Hebrews. They're the bloodline of the Hebrews. Okay? So Jacob's born. He has a twin brother. They fight the whole time in the womb so much that Rebecca has to go and find out what the hell's going on in her stomach. Thinks that the baby's dying or something. Goes to Shem, and Shem tells her, and Abraham both told her, that she has twins and that they're fighting, and that her womb's not big enough because the whole world isn't going to be big enough to hold the two of them. And anyhow, so then when they're born, the way the legend goes is that they're fighting to see who's going to be the older brother, and Israel, Jacob, wins, and then Esau, the twin brother, grabs Rebecca's heart and says he'll kill their mother unless he's allowed to go first. So Jacob lets him go first, but then he's got his hand on Esau's heel as they come out of the birth canal. And that's why he's called Jacob, which means supplanter or heel grabber. And so he comes out that close. And so that's how close the one rule will lead to the other. Is Jacob's always that it, when Jacob's in lead or in ruling, and then as soon as he falls out, Esau's rule is going to jump right into effect, and so on and so forth. So that all comes in later. So then they're both born. Esau's now the older brother, so he's got the promise, but he doesn't live godly. He's all worldly, and then he's out hunting, and he comes back. He kills somebody, and he comes running home, and he has to. He's starving to death. He thinks he's going to die, and so Jacob's cooking up a big supper when he comes in, and he says, "Oh, feed me." And Jacob says, "Yeah, I'll feed you for the birth promise." And Esau says, "Yeah, I don't care about that. You can have the stupid birth promise. Feed me, and you're going to cook up this and that, and you're going to make a big meal, and I'm bringing my buddy over, and you're going to serve us." And Jacob's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And so he buys the birthright from Esau. Then when Isaac, their father, is dying, he calls to Esau to give him the the promise and the blessings. And Rebecca overhears it. She gets Jacob and tells him, and she comes up with a big plan to trick Isaac into thinking that he's Esau so that he can steal the blessing. And she says, "It's okay, because your grandfather already told me that you're the one that needs the blessing, and you're the one to carry on the line, and I'm supposed to watch after you. And I left that out, but Abraham tells her that. And anyways, so then Jacob steals the blessing. Esau comes back to get blessed, and Isaac's like, I already blessed you. Who did I just bless then? If I didn't bless you or whatever. They figure it out. And Esau's all brokenhearted, and he says, there must be some blessing left, Father. Bless me too. So the way the blessings go is that Jacob got blessed that wherever he goes on earth, the dew of the earth will yield itself to him. So like the animals, the plants, everything, it's just going to pour out of the ground to Jacob. And that like men will serve him and willingly and lovingly serve him and all this stuff. And then Isaac says there must be some blessing left. And so, or Esau. So Isaac says, okay, well, I'll bless you too. And he says, you will dwell in the dew of the earth by your sword. That's the key of the blessing. There's a whole bunch more. But so by war, you're going to be at rule, and you're going to have the money and the power in the world by your sword. So those are the two blessings. Years go by, all kinds of fighting, all kinds of bad blood between the two brothers. And then wars, and they die in Egypt, and all this stuff happens. And then we get to, I think it was second exile, something like that. The Jews are being invaded and ripped out of their homes and taken prisoner, and all this stuff's going on. And at the time, Esau is joking and laughing at them and making fun of them, breaking into the city and stealing from them, taking prisoners of their own with women and children, and then the Israelites make like a little back road hokey man trail like to escape, and they rat them out and tell the army to come over and catch them all as they're trying to get out, and all this stuff, all this horrible stuff. So there's a curse put on both of them because Jacob went against God. The Israelites, they went against God horribly, and they were doing all kinds of shit. They had the Greeks move in. They put up a gym right beside the temple, and they would it was all men in there, and they would wrestle naked, and usually it would be men with younger boys, teenage boys or whatever, and there'd be all kinds of sodomy and all this stuff going on in there. And so they put that right beside the temple, and they were doing all kinds of shit. And anyways, God invades them, and then they get the curse. This prophet comes out. I forget which prophet it was, but he comes out and he says, here's the curses God told me. Esau and Jacob, both. Esau, you shouldn't have done all this stuff, and Jacob, you shouldn't have done all that stuff. So from now on, if Jacob is under God, Esau, you're going to be servant. The whole world will be servant to Jacob. And the word servant means more like a willing participant. Like he's your employer, but you're happy to go to work. Servant. But if you're not under God, then the whole world, and you especially, will be slave to Esau. And you know what the word slave implies. And that's why today they group the Jews or the Israelites all together in one continent so that the dew of the earth piles out of that continent. And then it sends its money to all the other Israelite institutions, banks, and kingdoms all over the world. and funds it all. And then they go out and they have a whole bunch of wars all over in order to stay in power, because Esau will rule by the sword. So he's going to be forcefully ruling. And Jacob's going to have the dew of the earth, but Esau's going to dwell in it by the sword. So he's going to pile Jacob together so that the dew yields itself in one place and keep Jacob away from God, because otherwise you're going to be a servant to him. And then you can send that money out around the world. Well, what country is that? Think about it. It all makes sense. So the 10 lost tribes, they had disappeared, right? And, well, we found the Hokiman trail from them, the walking trail from somewhere Asia over to America, over to somewhere North Canada, Alaska area. And you wouldn't have to take much water out of the ocean for us to be able to walk that, right? Probably a couple Grand Canyons, right? Grand Canyon covered 2 states. The lakes that it created covered 3 states. One lake covered 2 states, and the other lake was 1 state. So I forget which states, but that's a lot of water out of the ocean, just that. And then if you look at like the maritime provinces, you fill that in Quebec, and you make Ontario, Quebec, all one big huge lake. That's massive amounts of water out of the ocean. So the Israelites walked over here, and God opened up those floodwaters and released them into the ocean, raising the ocean up and protecting those Israelites over here so that nobody else could come over and kill them for a while, let them thrive for a while. They got way off, of course, and became the natives, whatever. Their religion was messed, and except for some, but we killed all them. And anyhow, so I'm sure like probably Columbus's granddad or whatever would have seen this ocean change in his lifetime. He lived by the water, and all of a sudden your house is fucking 20 feet underwater. It's like, well, something happened. And so they knew that in order for the water to come up, there had to be something that displaced it. So there had to be land that popped up somewhere else that made this water come up and cover this land. That's where he went sailing. And they knew that the Israelites were gone all of a sudden. So they were probably also hunting them down. So there's your 10 tribes. The other 2 tribes went south and got down in they both went into a diaspora, that's what it's called, where you try to settle and the native community throws you out. You move, you settle. The native community throws you out. You move and settle. The native community throws you out. So they went all through Africa trying to find a spot. And they finally did, down the very southern coast. And that's where they got shipped out from there and pulled over to the States so that they had them all in one place. And had the nation builders back, built the nation so that they could have what we have today and what we've had for years and years now. So the years after, like generations after that curse, the Maccabees happens. See, and before the Maccabees, the Romans and the Edomites and stuff were all over top of Israel. And then Judah Maccabee, or not Judah, Judah's father, I forget his name, he stands up against the Romans and it's again with these gyms and stuff like this. And it was they were trying to put the king's head in the temple, and they wanted everybody to worship the king. And so they were like, no, we're not doing it, not having it. And war breaks out. and the Maccabees happens. The whole Maccabees age, it's really cool. But Judah Maccabee, the first son, when his father's killed and Judah takes over, he's actually Judah the Hammer. That's what they called him, which is the word Maccabee. Their last name wasn't Maccabee. So they Judah invades Edom and takes it over and tells all the Edomites that they either have to circumcise themselves and convert to Judaism, or move out of the land. So a lot of them moved and a lot of them converted. The ones that converted became the Pharisees or the Sadducees. I'm not sure. Anyhow, they're the ones that Jesus referred to as being the synagogue of Satan. People who call themselves Jews but are not, you're the synagogue of Satan. Edom is the synagogue of Satan. That's their whole thing. They're the opposite of God's chosen people. But it's of the same bloodline, which tells us that it's not about bloodline. It's not about race. That's stupid. It's about God just needed to choose somebody on the earth that could represent the timeline of the Bible. And now, yes, he did bless them with certain attributes. And that's why when Hitler went to the Olympics, he was so pissed off because he was saying, you guys have the Hebrews in your country for slaves and for the betterment of all Edomite countries, not to be used in the Olympics. That's cheating. These people have the gifts of animals. It's like putting my men against gorillas and cheetahs and fucking whatever animals you want to, have my wrestler go up against an elephant. It's cheating. And so that's what he was talking about, because he knew he was a Rothschild. His mom was a Rothschild. He knew the score. Most people don't. So don't go judging your Jewish neighbor, because they don't have any idea of this stuff. They don't read these books anymore. They're all considered fake and phony and all this other stuff. And after Jesus, there was no more Judaism. It's gone. There's no temple. There's no sacrificing. There's none of the rituals. There's none of the things that represented pure Judaism can still happen anymore. It's physically impossible. So they had to come up with a rewrite. They rewrote the religion. And they totally butchered it, and now they've got these other books. I forget the name of the book they read today, but I was looking it all up to see, because I thought, how do the Jews not all figure this out? Like, they read all these books and study them, and they're really high educated and all this stuff. How do they, they should all be, or like half of them should be seeing this. But they don't. They don't read these books. They don't study all that stuff. There's things they study, but it's got a lot of things removed, just like Christianity. Like the Maccabees should be in the Bible. Jubilees should be in the Bible. Enoch should probably be in the Bible. But they're not, because they don't want us to really see the truth, right? So if you had all these books, you'd be able to go like, whoa, wait a minute. What you're telling me doesn't make any sense. So they've dumbed down the Bible enough that it's still there. You can still find Jesus, but you're not getting a real clean grasp. Anyhow, I know for me, it took reason and logic for me to come to the Bible. I had to know this stuff in order to believe that stuff. And then even once I came to the Bible with all this information, it was truly a couple of years later that I figured out the spiritual side and kind of understood the Holy Ghost and actually accepted the whole and got that and accepted Jesus and the death, burial, resurrection, and all the miracles and all that stuff. It took a while. Excuse me. But if Judaism is God's religion and Jesus was sent here and then Judaism was destroyed and cannot be done anymore, can't be practiced anymore, there's not even Levites to hold the scriptures or to teach, then that alone proves that Jesus was real, because otherwise God wouldn't have let his religion get destroyed unless he came to change it himself, right? Because it had been infiltrated and blasphemed to a point that it was unrecognizable anyway. So then he came down and changed it and said, no, this is what I meant. And we got to walk away from that. That's foolishness at this point. It's totally, not totally, it's like half convoluted or whatever. So we got to just here's the real basics, and he didn't destroy the Bible. He made it stronger. Don't kill. Well, he says love everybody. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. He says if you even think about lust in your mind, then you've already sinned. So he just made the rules all stronger. Thou shalt not kill. That was the other one. And then he said, if you even think about the murder, you're already in sin. If you have that rage, so not just the acting on it, but the carrying of it is bad. That's the sinful part. Is what he's saying. Just try to let things go and live your life, and don't dwell on other people's mistakes or other people's evil that was towards you or whatever. Anyways, guys, that's enough from this sinner. I hope you guys learned something, maybe lit a little torch in your mind of some sort, and I hope you all have a great, blessed day. God's a part of your life. And remember, you don't have to be part of God's story or the Bible, but you want God to be a major part of your story. Amen. Hallelujah, guys.